Welcome to Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the place for everything midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. We are back with the Landlord Diaries. What do you think? Is that a good new style? I'm going to switch it up every time now.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that. You're going to run out of ideas pretty quick, I think.
or people are going to cover their ears, be like, ooh, not that one.
Fast forward the first minute.
Well, it's Kelly Bailey and Katie Lyon, your host team. We are excited to be here with you today. And Katie, who are we talking to today?
Today we talked to Zosia. Zosia, I actually know personally from, she used to work with my husband. So I've gotten to hear her real estate story for a few years now. But it's really great. And it's something very relatable because her and her husband, Tyler, literally started just by looking on the MLS and setting some goals, and they just figured out a way to do it. He's a GC, so he's a general contractor, so they have a little bit of a leg up when it comes to the remodels and renovations, so they've chosen to go that route. But most of their properties are midterm rentals, and it's working out so great for them. So she's got a lot of tips, a lot of tricks, a lot of insights, a lot of things that you might not have thought of before. So this is a really good one to have some good takeaways from. So just as a reminder, this episode and every episode is brought to you by Furnished Finder, where you can list your property for $99 a year and get unlimited tenant leads.
Today we travel to Denver, Colorado to talk with Zosia Madden. Zosia and her husband Tyler own 3 multifamilies in Denver and Aurora, with 9 of the units being utilized as midterm rentals. This dynamic duo owns a bespoke luxury construction firm called Laurelless, specializing in high-end residential remodeling. You may find these two on Bigger Pockets from time to time as well. Thanks for being with us today, Zosia. How are you?
So good. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Yes, we're looking forward to our conversation with you. And you and Katie actually know each other before we met for the podcast. So I'm going to let Katie kick it off today.
I do. This is like an extra fun episode for me because I know Zosia and her husband, and I know all the amazing things that they've done. So I can't wait for you to share. So tell everyone a little bit about Laurelless and where the company kind of started from and where you're at with it today.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband started the business about 7 years ago when he was really fed up with other subcontractors and contractors coming into the house that we bought. You know, we bought a fixer-upper back in 2013 and it needed a lot of work. And every time we house hacked that one, which is for another day, but anytime we had to do work on it, anytime he called anybody, people wouldn't show up. So he started just dabbling a little bit more. And he had grown up doing construction with his family, which I think helped. I grew up in an apartment, so I had no idea how to do anything. And then it slowly grew from just doing small projects from our bathrooms to other people's bathrooms to kitchens. He had worked with an interior designer for a little while, and they started getting whole home remodels. And all of a sudden, that moment of realization of, hey, I'm actually going to do this. I am going to go and get my actual GC license. I'm going to study. I'm going to create a business. And this is where I'm going to grow everything. Really grew around 7 years ago. And it's been incredible to see the journey that it's been on from whole home remodels to then us being able to use the company for our personal portfolio, which is super helpful. I think that everybody understands the largest cost of any sort of remodel or a value add is in the construction cost. So us being able to self-perform or use the business for that has definitely helped juice the squeeze the juice, and a little bit more. So now we've grown it though to a 7-figure remodel business here in Denver, and we take on mostly luxury remodels. So really people that are wanting the experience of high-end luxury with the people component. We tend to say that we're a people business that just happens to do construction. We find that that really exemplifies who we are, which is Laurelless, which the term is resting on your laurels, but we don't have any laurels to rest on. So we're Laurelless.
If you're in the Denver or Aurora area, how far out do you go in case someone's looking for a good partner?
Yeah, definitely. So currently we have one slot open for another customer, probably around August start date. We might just sign on somebody that we just did a walkthrough on Friday, but so we're about 4 to 5 months out. It takes about a month of prep time. We have about 6 projects going on, May, June, July, and then we'll be trickling those out to another round starting in August, September, October, and then usually a slow roll through the holidays because most people don't want a construction zone over the holidays in general.
So you mentioned something in what you were saying that, you love that because you own your own contracting company, that you kind of have that ability to handle the entire real estate process. Does that start from the raw land for y'all as well? Do you ever do the development side of it as well? Or where do you start the process?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. And if my husband were on this call, he would say, you're reading my mind. Our goal is to get to development. I think that we have learned a lot over the past couple of years. We really have grown our real estate portfolio. We bought our first multifamily deal in March of 2021. And so we have really grown to what we have now in just 2.5 short years, I guess. And I think in the next 2.5 years, you will see development on our portfolio, and we're very excited about it. It's a whole nother playing field, and especially in Denver and Aurora, there's a lot of other information we don't need to get into, but it's a long process. For now, we find all of our deals on the MLS, and we really have done a good job partnering with or just identifying our buy box and having the right people understand what we're looking for. Then again, we also scour the Zillows and the Redfins. I think that's actually how we found one of these deals. And then another one came to us from a realtor. And then another one came to us through a wholesaler. So varying ways that the deals come to us. And then it's always important as an investor and anybody in construction to look at the deal and say, okay, what are my multiple exit strategies? What am I going to do with this property? Initially, midterm rentals was not on our plan. We did not think we were going to do midterm rentals at all. And now I look back and think I was insane to not understand. I had no idea what Furnish Finder was in March of 2021. And I have since learned so much. And I do think that it's when you first start the deal, understanding running your numbers with long-term rents, because those are always going to be lower, to ensure that no matter what happens, you can make money. And then let's say, great, if I can make money with long-term rents, then I know anything else is gravy if we can do midterm. If something happened where we could do short-term, which would be the sweet spot, we would all be millionaires. But I think that midterm is the great intermediary between long-term and short-term.
All right, I have a few things to add here.
Yeah.
I just have these topics that tick up in my head as you're talking. So, Kelly, like we said, I've known Zosia through my husband, who they used to work together for a couple of years. So I've heard a lot about her story, at least when they were working together, kind of third person style. So not from Zosia herself, but through my husband, who would come home and he'd be like, so Zosia and her husband were trying to buy one property and then they bought 2, and a very kind of telephone system. But here's kind of where I'm taking this. First of all, I love what you're saying about finding deals on the MLS. For anyone who listens to a lot of, podcasts or content about real estate investments, people people are harsh on the MLS about saying like, you can't find deals, or you have to go driving for dollars, or you have to go knock on doors, or you have to, and yes, you can do all of those strategies, but personally, we've found all of our deals on the MLS too, simply because I don't have the time to do that other stuff. Sure, it would work, but like, I just want everyone out there to know, and this is a really good, you're a really good example that you can still find good deals on the MLS. You just have to be patient.
Yes.
The other thing that I would love for you to just kind of go over really quickly with everyone is where your portfolio is now, and kind of give us a quick timeline of how you got to the number of properties you have now.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So Reader's Digest version, not the the extended notes. Yeah, Pink Monkey back in the day. So yeah, we I was I think I was 7 months pregnant. We were in Hawaii for our baby moon, and we got a call about this fourplex in Denver that was for sale. And it was it was on the MLS. The real estate agent just told us about it. So we're in Maui and getting a vision, and it's snowing in Denver, getting like a virtual tour of this property. We're like, this looks pretty sweet. Let's run some napkin numbers pencil, which means that they looked good. We're literally signing documents on Southwest Wi-Fi. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. But it worked. So we get proof of funds. We get the numbers in, and we don't get under contract.
Oh,
they take somebody else's offer. Totally bummer, right? We're like, this would have been a great property. So we find this other terrible property that is in Aurora, and it literally, if you see the pictures, you are going to say, you two are cray cray. But it was inexpensive on the MLS, and there was something funky about the listing that other people couldn't find it. Like, so I don't know
25
what
bathrooms.
happened, how it happened. Yeah, I know. Like something weird was listed on it. So it's a cute little threeplex across the street from Anschutz Medical Hospital, which if anybody
is a big medical campus, like
huge. Yeah, it's like the VA hospital, Children's Hospital. They've been putting millions of dollars into this hospital conglomerate. And so we put an offer in, and it gets accepted. And this is great. We get a couple of concessions. We get the price down because the sewer line needs to get replaced. So I think we get under contract for $397, and it was listed for $425. This was back in 2021 too. So this is how terrible of a property it was. But then all of a sudden,
and remember, this is Denver and Aurora, where a cardboard box cost $500,000.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Totally. Yeah. This was an interesting time to like just pop in. So then we get a call a week later. Remember that again, I'm due the beginning of May, end up having this baby in April. This is like the end of March. And we get a call saying, hey, the other offer fell through on the fourplex you originally saw in Maui.
Yes.
Are you interested? And yeah, and exactly. My husband are like, how are we going to take down $1 million in debt at the same time and have pregnant, be pregnant, have a baby, and they're all value add properties, mind you. They did not, you can't just go and rent them again. And they all had tenants. So it was just a whole long story, but we ended up using a variety of funding. So we had some HELOC money, we had, and then we got hard money. So we used our HELOC money as down payments. We used HELOC money for the acquisition, and then we used more HELOC money for the rehab of the properties. We did not get any partners or anything, so we ended up purchasing the deals ourselves. And it actually, I lied. We did get one private money investment, which just bridged the loan. Basically, we needed a little bit of extra funds in order to bring the deal together. But we got it all done, and we bought all 7 of them. And then, so we have 7 of those, and I think we'll maybe get into it later, but we went way over budget on that cute little terrible triplex, and she is a beaut now. I love that thing. That thing is a cash cow. It's one of my favorite properties because it's just always renting. But we went super over budget, and that's where we found midterm rentals. So we rent all 3 of those as midterm rentals. The other 4plex, we do 3 of them as midterm rentals and 1 as a long-term. And then we just bought another property this last September, which is a 4-unit in Denver as well through the wholesaler. And that one, we planned from the get-go to have it all be midterm rentals. And all 4 of them are rented. We actually just closed on the refinance, the cash out refinance on that property yesterday and got all of our initial investment out. So we did a perfect BRRRR on it. For those of you who understand what BRRRR investing is.
Go ahead and break it down for those that might not.
Yeah. So BRRRR is this method of, you buy, you rehab, you refinance, rent, refinance, repeat. So we were able to do that with all 3 properties. So we bought the properties, we rehabbed them, we rented them out, we refinanced, we used the cash to either pay our initial investments back, and then we repeated it by getting additional BRRRR properties. So that means that we have left $0 into any of these deals, and basically they're all cash flowing, which means that we are only paying for our capital expenditures and or holding some of the money for potential expenses that we have, but all of it is pure cash flow. We are not paying back our investment in any way on any of these properties. So that gives us a total of 9 midterm rentals, 2 long-term rentals. 1 is a single family home that was our old house. So that's our nice little portfolio that happened.
What makes a perfect
over the past
BRRRR?
couple years? Perfect BRRRR means you leave no money in the deal. So you are able to get all of your invested money out of it, and you don't leave any money into the deal. So technically this last one, we're leaving like $14,000 into it. So it's not technically a perfect BRRRR, but in the dollars, the market, the percentage, we're at a 240% cash on cash return, which is great. And we'll make that back in 9 months. So in that sense, we'll make all of our cash flow. We'll put that towards that investment. And by the end of the year, we will be purely cash flowing out of that property.
So we're already into the numbers a bit. Which of the 3 is producing the most ROI? And how are you analyzing them each differently? How are they going?
Yeah, it's interesting because they are all a little bit different. But I will say that our strategy is to always make them nicer than any other rental. And I think that is a good strategy. And while we normally work with luxury high end, we have a lot of the same suppliers, and we've been able to use a lot of the similar materials to get a similar look to this kitchen, but in a 500 square foot, 2,000, you're renting it for $2,000 a month, but it makes people feel really good, and you get an elevated tenant, and we're able to make more money by putting an initial investment in of a little bit more money.
I think that's a good point, because Kelly and I, even you and I's properties are very different. Like Kelly's are more like rustic almost, right? Like they're like cozy and homey, and mine are a little bit more like, please take your shoes off.
Mine are, please leave your shoes on. Like, we like our shoes on in the house.
Right. And mine are, take your shoes off, please. Right? Like they're just too different, but we both have full occupancy, right? And it's because there is a market for all these different types. There's not just one type of tenant that's traveling in this way. There's all different types, and even within one avatar, right? Even within, like, say, travel nurses, you have the travel nurses who, yes, they want to feel safe and they want to feel secure, but they are very budget oriented. Yes. And they're, sucking it up for a couple of years, and they want to load their bank account as much as possible. And then there's the travel nurses who want to maybe live downtown and get a little bit more, they're going to, right. So wherever you find yourself on that, that scale, like there's a home, you just have to market it correctly.
Definitely. Yeah. I think marketing it properly And getting great photos, no matter what you're doing with your property, getting great photos really helps sell. And so I think back to your initial question of which one is kind of making the most money. Really, surprisingly enough, so again, I think that all of this is can be a little bit biased, or the numbers can be skewed because of the market right now. So where had I bought the property, or had we done our property, the most recent one, even just last year, the year before, and refinanced with lower, this property would be making way more money, right? The gross revenue is much higher, but the net revenue is much lower because of the state of things. So I think sometimes looking at cash flow is always great. The nice thing about ours is that our cash flow completely pays our living expenses. My husband and I's, like completely, with those just 4 properties, a house and then those 3, which is super helpful. I think that the little triplex in Aurora is adorable because we also got that when we refinanced it. It appraised at $625,000. So we got our loan out for, what was it, 70%, 75% of that. I think it's 580, 560 or something like that. We always keep 25% equity in any deal that we do, to 25 to 30% equity that we do. But the payment for that house or that triplex is only $2,500 a month. I'm making $2,000 per unit. So that's $6,000 minus expenses. I'm making a little over $3,000 a month for that unit, that property. So I think that's different than, hey, my other property that we just refinanced, I'm going to be making closer to, $10,000 a month in gross. Huge difference. But the mortgage on that one is close to $7,000. Expenses are more, things are more. So we're only gross renting $2,000 on, maybe $1,800 on that one. So I think when people look at the numbers too, of saying, well, how is that person, cash flowing that much money? You also have to think of interest rates, expenses, property taxes. Luckily, of all things that are crazy in Denver, property taxes are not totally insane here. So I think looking at all of those numbers when you are analyzing deals to understand how are you going to spread those costs and how does that affect your bottom line, and what kind of cash flow do you get even with all of those expenses. But around every month, we range somewhere between $24,000 to $28,000 a month gross profit. And once expenses, you hold all your dollars that you need to hold, insurance, taxes, fees, mortgages, we're right somewhere between the $8,000 to $11,000 a month in net profit from each of these, which isn't terrible considering there's only, 11 properties in use right now. So
I think it's also really important to remember that every property can have a different goal, right? You can go out and say, okay, I want us to get a property that cash flows as much as possible, and do everything from the way you acquire the property to how you finance it, how you all of that with that in mind. Or you can say, I don't really care about monthly cash flow. I'm setting this up so that in 20 years when my kids go to college, it's worth the most money possible. All right. So Zosia, I want to talk to you about kind of systems and processes. I know, Nate and I have gotten 4 properties in the past 12 months.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there's sometimes where I'm like, did that person pay rent? Like, did I pay that mortgage? Yeah. And I'm like lazy, not lazy. I'm smart.
Yes.
I try to call it smart, where I have like everything I can on auto pay.
Definitely.
But still, I'm like, managing the systems is so tricky. So I would love to hear any insights or tips that you have for that, because surely we have tons of listeners who have the same challenge, because even I think the challenge starts after you have like 2 properties or more.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because all of us also have our residences.
Right. Yeah.
So if you have your residence and one other property, you're probably like, you can probably just do it freestyle. Once you get that 3rd property, it feels like you just jumped in the deep end and you're like, okay, wait a minute. And then you got it, like, you're trying to figure out, like, am I profitable? Where are the expenses? Like, how do you guys How do you guys handle that?
Yeah. So a couple things, and I think a couple things to know also for any listeners out there. Things get crazy real fast, but and also to remember, I was very pregnant. So by the time we closed and actually got to start working on any of the properties, we had a baby. Tyler would go at nights to work at some of the properties before, and we kind of self-manage. And as a tenant moved out, we would start remodeling the properties. So we didn't get all of them into working order all at once, which was helpful. So I will say that, like, it was kind of one at a time. As we got them up and going, then we started renting them out. A couple things that I do. One, I'm a solid spreadsheet person. Love a good spreadsheet. So I have a spreadsheet that has each of our properties on a tab, and then it compiles into the main tab. So then it shows me all of our properties at a glance, so I can see, and it keeps track. And I work really hard at updating these twice a month, but definitely at least once a month, where, hey, because variable things happen. There are things that are variable. Electricity is variable. Water bill is relatively variable. I have a general understanding. I can do some forecasting from last year, but overall it fluctuates. And then I put in money for, hey, I'm going to take out this projected profit for if we have some, like the sewer line go out, things like that.
I also appreciate a spreadsheet, a really good spreadsheet. I love a good spreadsheet. Spreadsheet. I can't talk today. Spreadsheet.
Yes.
I will say for everyone out there, just a tip. I actually found a really good spreadsheet on Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like $7 or something, and it just gave me the base. So I love a really good spreadsheet. I hate starting from scratch. So if you can go out there and Google or get on Etsy or get on wherever you like to, and like just search for a template, then you can customize it and you can tweak it, but it'll give you kind of that head start.
What was your spreadsheet for?
It was for managing all of the income and all of the expenses. And like Zosia said, it's got like, I can put in all the tenants and I can put, have they paid a deposit, or I can put in and it'll say, here's the expenses for the month. So then I can look at each property and it'll show if it's profitable, and then it'll give me a portfolio glance too.
Okay. And don't forget, if you haven't checked out Furnish Finder tenant tracking, it has all those features. So you may find that that's the perfect style for you under your landlord tools as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's so many different tools out there. There's different platforms that can track those things. There are spreadsheets, but then I also think that it's important to have the systems to get people into the building. And then also, what are your systems once tenants are in the building? How do they contact you about any problems that may arise? Who is your go-to maintenance person? Who is the go-to? Do you have a guidebook on hand? So I think that those are systems then after the fact of having a guidebook with your property rules, your Wi-Fi, things that are like maybe nuances about the property of, hey, when the heater goes above this, click it, and then it'll, turn back on or something. Or we have in a majority of our properties, we have duo combo washers, the very kind of version of it. And I think that they collect lint. And it's one of the only weird things. They kind of collect lints. You have to go, all right, make a little note about that for everybody to read. And those are the additional systems to have in place after.
But you found one that is your go-to that you love?
So mine is, again, personally on spreadsheets where it's, hey, there's a couple. I have
no, the washer dryer.
You
found a go-to that is like,
it's a GE. It's a GE. It's a pretty big capacity. The greatest thing about it is that it does not need 220. It's just a normal outlet. It's ventless. So really you can pop it into any kitchen or
ventless. Lovely.
That's the thing. So there wasn't any additional electrical work, HVAC work, any ducting. So
what about the draining?
So it needed a full drain. So there was already a space for a washer dryer. There was just no vent for the dryer and no chimney for a dryer. So I think it was set up to just have a washing machine, which people like having dryers. Granted, it takes much longer, but we also provide one of the one of those like just rack dryers too. So they can
Mm-hmm.
do that and then just maybe fluff in the dryer, but it seems to work.
All right. So I want to talk to you more about systems because systems are like spreadsheets and they make me happy because anything that I do once and I know I'm going to do again, I am like you. I want to create a system for it. I also don't like ever starting at
Yeah.
step one if I don't have to. Kelly knows this about me. So let's talk about furnishings because I know that's a challenge, especially for a lot of tenants who are maybe getting their first property or if their second property is really different. I know I have a spreadsheet of like basic furnishings that I've been using personally. I think Kelly, you have one as well. What have you found that kind of works for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I dig this. So I love the design aspect, and I think that it's one of my favorites, but I'm also super frugal, like very cheap. So I really made it my lifelong dream and goal was to do these furnishings as cheap as possible but make it look cozy and homey. So I think with the first property, I kind of went with like a California boho kind of vibe, but I scoured the internet. So I think some of my favorites are Amazon, Walmart, actually, the Better Homes and Garden line at Walmart, hands down, one of the best. And then Amazon has some like fake leather couches that are always a great steal, depending on if you need, a pull-out couch. You can say it sleeps one additional person if somebody's friends come out to visit. So I also have a spreadsheet, and then I have it broken down by 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. So it's the most I have ever furnished so far. And then it breaks down from living room, bathroom, kitchen, essentials. And then I have multiple lines, and I actually have a small picture of the item down the center. So I can make sure that, hey, because with the newest property that we did, it was complete design, like a different design than I've ever done. And it was my favorite. And I definitely spent a little bit more money. But again, our rents are higher. I knew that we needed to squeeze more money out of this. So we decided to spend, I think I spent $5,500 for the 1 bedroom, 1 bath instead of 4,000. And really that came down to additional rugs that I haven't used previously, some additional throw pillows. I think that having the more pictures on the wall, like our first unit, I think I put a rug up on the wall. Like I like hung a rug, which looks super nice, but this needed a little like frames from IKEA. And so I think that that's where the furnishings are. But if you find items that you love, spreadsheet it and ensure that you're getting those again and again. I can go in and probably I ordered everything online. I didn't go to one store. And I just don't have time to do that. And while I love going shopping and I love going to Home Goods and I love the idea of all that, one, I would have gotten distracted. Two, I would have spent way more money out of the shiny, pretty, I probably need that potted plant here. I need that here. And I'm terrible at doing returns. So I need a system where I know exactly that I need 4 beds. I need 4 mattresses. I need, and I can go through and then I can just click the link, add it, and then I go through and is it ordered? Yes, no, it changes color when I order it. And I can move down my whole list and scroll through, and I have my updated pricing and it all calculates in the bottom. And then I say, which credit card did each items go on? When is the payment due? Da, da, da. And so I can just keep everything organized. And then it's, how many people does it take to put it all together? I think that's the next step. And I still haven't figured out a good solution for that. And I think it's also getting everything delivered to my personal house and then transferring it because of the way that deliveries work, I don't want them showing up to a property that's not fully finished and packages going missing. So I think that there are a couple of things that I've not perfected, and I've not perfected a lot of this.
But part of that is just because we're not like huge businesses, right? Like that's always going to be a part of it. Like, and I think that's okay. Have you, when you check out on like a Wayfair, you're buying something and it's like, do you want to add assembly for $59 or whatever? I am so cheap. I've never thought to do that. And on one of our last properties, I did it because the property before my brother called me. This was when they were furnishing without me, and he called me on FaceTime and he was like, if I have to assemble another dresser like this, like you're uninvited to everything. And I was like, okay, message heard. So
No.
last time I did it. I'm telling you, that was the best $100 I have ever spent. That person showed up, built 2 dressers from, the box in an hour and a half. And then she gave me her personal phone number. So the next one we needed, she built for $40. $40 because she didn't have the markup of whatever. And I was like, that's the best $40 I've ever spent. And I'm like you, I'm painfully cheap.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of really great things about TaskRabbit. I know that TaskRabbit even has a partnership with IKEA where they highly recommend certain people, where it's actually, I think it's IKEA / TaskRabbit, who people are supposedly really good at IKEA stuff. And I think that is something, as we are both growing a business, being parents, growing a real estate portfolio, trying to move on to the next steps, that it's incredible how the mindset has to change to not the who, but how. And we're really trying to embrace that more often within the business. And I think we're doing it more, where if that $100 saved you a call from your brother, it saved you any worry about having to do it yourself, then what is your time freedom, and what is your time worth, and what can you accomplish in that 2 hours that it would have taken you?
Right. And not only that, but like she was so good at it and she loved it. Like that was like, right. I'm like, that is your zone. That is where you belong. That is most definitely not where I belong, not because of entitlement or privilege or anything. She loved doing it. And I was like, I hate that and I'm terrible at it. That's not what I should be doing.
All right. I want to have a roundtable discussion. So we're having lots of good furnishings conversation. And Katie, this is one we haven't talked about on the show before. So I'm really excited to hear how each of us handle this, because we each have different size kitchens in our homes, and you've got those items that you only use a couple times a year, but which ones have you deemed this is a must have, even if it's only going to be used a couple times a year? People want to know that these items are here. So I wrote down some thought processes, such as toasters, blenders, crock pots, mixers. Now we've got Instapots and coffee grinders. Let's start with Zosia. What have you found are like those bigger items that you only use a couple times a year that you put in every one of your places?
Yeah, I do the tiny crock pots because I feel like it's a small place. So I think it's like a 5-quart, maybe I don't know what the number is, but it's cute little crock pots. I don't know why I love doing crock pot meals. I think it's easy. So I've always put one of those. I just found like a single toast toaster because they were actually out of the double toast toaster, but a toaster, even though I don't own a toaster, my mom gives me a hard time every single time she comes to my house. She's like, and anytime she comes over when we've done bulk orders, she's like, oh, you finally got it. Oh, this is for you. A hard time every single time. We do blenders. I have really been tempted, because I'm obsessed with my air fryer, to start providing them. I think they're $100. Maybe you can probably get them for $60 to $100. But I think that an air fryer is such an integral part of cooking now, and it would maybe help keep the oven more clean. My concern would be people cleaning the inside of it as well as it needs to be cleaned more consistently. I have not done that one yet. Obviously a Keurig, but maybe the other round table is, do you do Keurig or drip?
This is included in that.
Okay, yeah. I have always done Keurigs. I feel like it's just a little bit easier. And it feels fancier for some reason. Like it feels easier and a little bit nicer than just a drip coffee pot.
See, I think it compromises the quality of the taste sometimes.
Probably.
So depending on what I'm hearing here is that you kind of base it off of your preference, and I do the same, where I'm like you. I don't prefer toast in a toaster either, because I think it's a little bit more dry and doesn't get as hot as I like. in the oven, it's like just the right
In
texture
the
and taste.
oven? You guys
Yes.
put bread in the oven?
Under broil. Takes 3
What?
minutes, same amount of time as a toaster. And I've got double ovens in a couple of mine, so it's like I
I've
don't
never
have
heard
to.
of such
It's so good.
nonsense.
You'll have to try it.
Oh my God, I love that you and I both are doing that because I don't think
Yes.
I've heard of anybody else. So the other weird thing that I provide, not necessarily weird, but they're kind of expensive in theory, but it's like a $40 pour over water, hot water, like electric kettle.
Yes.
Because I feel like either A, then if they're fancy coffee people, they will do pour over, or B, if they're tea people, then they don't have to just microwave water in the measuring cup, which sometimes I did. And finally, I doubled an order and got myself one because, again, I had been just boiling water in a measuring cup because I'm too cheap to spend the $40 on a gooseneck water pitcher. But I think sometimes those, a good pot and pan set and a cookie sheet in case you want to do that. But I don't do muffin tins, right? Like I do a cookie sheet, but on a muffin tin.
I think you have like 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms or studios, right? So maybe you don't even have room for all those extras.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go next. Those are a lot of fun because you've spurred the conversation on adding to the things that you've thrown out there. So I've figured out how to combine the hot water pitcher that you're talking about with the pots and pans. So there's this brand called Tefal that I really like, and it cooks very smooth. And it actually has it's supposed to cook evenly is like the whole structure of it. But they've got a what do they call it? Sip and pour or something. So it's got a little spout on each of the pots so that you can easily boil water and then pour it like you would because it's got the little point to pour from, which is pretty cool. And then the other items like those larger items that we provide. So toaster, if someone wants a toaster, then I provide it. But typically I say, hey, have you ever tried it in the oven? It's actually really good. If for some reason you hate it, let me know and I'll get you a toaster. So of course, some of our places do have toasters now. And then crock pot. And since ours are 3-bedroom, 2 baths, most of the time we do a full crock pot, a mixer so they can make cookies, like just one of those handheld mixers. And then I provide drip coffee and a coffee grinder. So people that want that really fresh flavor can buy the whole beans and be able to grind it. And then occasionally I might find a French press to throw in there as well as an option.
Yeah.
Katie, what's your style?
All right. Well, I do an air fryer in every property.
Do you really?
I do an air fryer in every property.
Nice. People love that.
I don't know. We use our air fryer like all the time. All the time. Like I use the oven so rarely and I feel like it helps keep the oven clean. I don't know. And I think it looks cute on the counter. So it's something that, and I'm like I'll find a good deal on an air fryer for like $40 and I'll buy 2 or 3 of them.
Yes, smart.
Can they get ruined easily or no? Like a pot. You know how pots get scratched up and you have to replace them all the time?
No, they're pretty durable.
I have found that ours is really durable. Yeah. It's just the part that's like hard to clean sometimes, like the piece that goes in it. But
I'll buy a Keurig, sometimes off-brand, and a drip coffee maker.
Okay.
I do both. And the drip coffee maker is a small one. It's like a miniature one. But I'm like, I don't know what kind of coffee you like, but I know that everyone deserves to have coffee.
Totally. Yep.
So then do you buy the K-cups or whatever the off-brand is?
I leave 3 on the counter.
3 K-cups. Okay.
I leave 3.
Nice. And we just do 1 bag of coffee. Yep.
Right. I'm trying to think of the absolute necessities because our latest arbitrage unit in Des Moines, the kitchen has a total of like 5 to 6 cabinets. That's it.
Right.
And that's for everything, including like where you're going to put your food. So that one my family furnished without me. And I had sent them with a small blender and a toaster. And they actually ended up bringing them back home with them because they were like, look, if we put these things there, there's no room for food. So I guess I would consider a blender and a toaster optional given that space is so small. But all my other units have either an air fryer or a toaster oven.
Okay.
If they get a toaster oven, they don't get
not just like a
because I found a really good deal on one once. So I was like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, let's try that. But if they get a toaster oven, they don't get a toaster.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then a small blender, and then I just tell them like if they need anything. But like one of them has an ice maker because the ice maker in the fridge broke, and I was like, I'm not paying to fix that.
Right,
There's
right.
one on sale on Amazon for $60. Here's a countertop ice maker.
Mm-hmm.
So I just give trays and say, put water in it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I mean, people can make ice that way easily, or they buy bags of ices. So are y'all saying that you don't do mixers, but you do blenders?
I have a blender in 2 out of 3 of mine.
Okay.
Because I feel like nurses on the go, like, and most of my tenants are nurses. They're like the smoothie folk.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
You know?
I agree. Yeah, I have like such a mix. I think I have a couple of nurses, but right now I have not the entire, but I have there's like 6 guys and 3 different units that are building the new Broncos Stadium Jumbotron.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so those guys are definitely not baking cookies. And if they do, they're and putting it a cookie sheet. But yeah, I think, and also, why are they building a Jumbotron for a team that can't win? I don't know. But if we just,
I do put I buy some of the disposable Tupperware for each one.
me too. I do that.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. And then wine glasses, like what are your go-to? Like definitely wine glasses, right? No wine glasses. Really?
I think it's everybody's right to have coffee and wine.
But see, I don't know. This is where I'm cheap. Put your wine in a regular glass.
Oh yeah, no.
I do get coffee mugs though.
I
Yeah.
just went to a party and she asked me to bring the wine glasses because her short-term rental didn't have any. So I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh,
okay,
no.
I can bring them over.
And part of it's just because all of the kitchens I have are so tiny that
Yes,
I have to be
you have to choose.
super thoughtful about what
Mhm.
is going in there.
Yep.
But
And I think we're all saying if someone asks for something, then we'll be ready to provide it if it makes sense, right? So it's
and
like,
I will say, I make it explicitly clear to every tenant. I said, hey, this place is freshly furnished. They don't know if that means that they're the first tenant or the 10th. It's still freshly furnished. So I use that term. I'm like, hey, just so you know, this unit's freshly furnished. If I missed anything or if there's anything that you like to have that would make your stay better, just please let me know. As long as it's within reason, I'll get it and it can just stay with the unit. I don't have an ironing board at any property because I don't know anyone who irons. But if they want an ironing board, I feel like that's practical. I'll buy it, but I'm not going to buy one for each unit before I actually know someone who needs it.
right.
So I do the small irons or ironing boards, like the little mini ones that just and then
college size ones. Yeah.
And there's these cute little irons that are maybe I don't know, 6 inches wide, and there's steam and everything at Walmart for $13. So I just put it into the bottom drawer, and then that way it's there if somebody needs it.
Yep, for sure. Cool. Well, this has been a fun discussion.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick conversation on the remodeling side, because since you own, a contracting company and you have a lot of those savvy tips for remodeling as well, what are your go-tos on the remodeling side?
Yeah, I think that's always an interesting thing, right? Because there's the option to both what Katie does, which is arbitrage, right? She's not going in there and doing
We've got a good mix, but definitely arbitrage we love.
Yeah, and where you don't need to remodel at all. Maybe some peel and stick wallpaper can do the trick. Any of our properties, because we are investors, we needed to have them be value add. And so they were full remodels where really just gutting out everything. We didn't keep anything in any of the properties. And that one cost us more money, but because we knew what our numbers were, we were able to completely get out all of our invested money into it. So that's kind of what I was explaining to BRRRR. Now, a couple of the go-tos are white shaker cabinets. Right now, it's all the rage because there are quite a few places in Denver. We have a couple of our favorite suppliers where they're quick, out of the box. We can get them within a week or so delivered. We have done a cheap option where we did laminate countertops. I find that really looking at the quality of it, it probably would have been a better use of our money to spend an extra couple $1,000s to do quartz, where it is more expensive, but talking about the longevity, we're planning on keeping these properties. We don't have a plan to sell any of these properties, but what will need to happen is that because we do tile, now we're going to have to do some tile fixes if we replace these with quartz down the way. So I think that looking at what your long-term strategy with a property is, I would say keep things pretty simple, but we did use, gold fixtures and gold handles at our newest property because I wanted it to be an elevated design. And other properties, I go with black. I do find that there isn't a huge price difference between brushed nickel and black. And I think black hardware is just super sharp and it adds like a nice little design detail. So if you can change out the hinges, change out the door hardware and make a couple of things pop, I think that's a quick remodel option for a lot of people to add a little bit of pizzazz without spending a whole bunch of money. But for us, we dig deep. We fix subfloors. We do all new plumbing, all new electrical. We make sure that we spend all the money up front, we get out all of our money back that we've spent, but then we don't have to spend huge dollar amounts down the road because we've already replaced the furnaces, we've replaced the electrical, we've replaced the plumbing, the things that people don't necessarily see behind the walls that don't often get touched. But I think that it's really important to understand kind of how deep you're willing to go. And if we weren't a general contracting company, that is a very large expense for a lot of people, but it could save you a lot of money over the long term. I think that that's the way to go.
And you can include it into a loan on the front side, where if you do the little projects down the road, then all you can do is save money on taxes, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like you'd have to, anything that's coming out now is, out of pocket, and, or you'd have to wait until you make a lot of money and you need something like a cost segregation to depreciate all your taxes, So I think that that is definitely something where it's easier just to kind of spend it all on the front end. It feels like more of it feels harder sometimes, right? Like Katie, when we were looking over your numbers and we were looking at, okay, if you're going to spend X amount of dollars on your rehab, does that also include all of these other things? And maybe do you add in the extra, instead of 10% contingency, 15, just in case, so that way you can replace some of those bigger ticket items. You don't have to worry about it down the road.
Yeah. I will say a couple little nuggets that I would pull from just what you said also is, if you're not going to do a full remodel, right? Look at the easy stuff that like hardware, light fixtures. The condo that we bought, I know Kelly and I, we've talked about this before, is very 90s, but it has the oak cabinets. Yeah. But we just put in black hardware. It costs like $40. We changed the light fixture in the kitchen, something from Lowe's, it cost $50, and it changed the whole kitchen. So do that. The other thing that I like that you said is keep, if you are doing a bigger type of project, keep most of the stuff very timeless and very versatile. Make the stuff that's trendy or that might go out of style later, like the gold handles. The gold handles are very elevated. They're very like fancy and like on trend right now. In 5 years, that could change, but changing a handle is not hard. Changing flooring, changing appliances, changing a cabinet color is very hard. So keep the things that, you might want to change, the things that are easy to change. Pick the floor that you're going to like for 10 years.
And as you're changing any of those things, even if you don't hire a construction company to do some of the maybe superficial fixes, some of those handles or the light fixtures, things like that. I think my husband's phenomenal at what he does. He understands kind of the right way to do things. So at least maybe if you are thinking about dabbling in, because people are like, oh, I'm just going to do this bathroom remodel this weekend, and then all of a sudden it turns into a huge mess. But call a friend, phone a friend, at least find somebody who knows somebody as a handyman or something, at least get a couple of ideas of what you should be doing before, because we've walked into so many properties that are totally DIY'd and DIY'd poorly. So I think that there's also that caveat of kind of understand your threshold and do it properly and not don't overstep your limits. I would just
let's talk about those countertops you mentioned earlier. So you've got quartz, you've got granite, you've got marble. which ones are the most durable and which ones need to be sealed frequently? Like, what's the background there on some of those?
Go with quartz all day long.
Now, I know there's engineered quartz.
Yeah,
Is
so good.
everything engineered, or are they both?
It's mostly,
Most,
I mean, I'd say it's
Mostly
probably
engineered.
95%. Yeah.
I think that what I look for in quartz is you seeing the veining on both the front side and the top, and where it like follows from the edge. I think that marble is one of those that needs to be covered,
Sealed.
sealed. Some of our friends are like, we want the wine stains, we want that because they want it to have that kind of vintagey look.
Never heard that.
Yeah, stresses me out. Granite is going to be a little bit more old school, although there's some really cool leathered granites that's definitely where you're going to get more of the visual texture, more of like the veining, lots of colors all throughout, more of a natural stone. And then laminate, like there's a couple of laminate suppliers. Call around where they'll just take measurements and cut to fit, which is awesome. It's a little bit more expensive, but you can get just black versus at Home Depot, they always have the speckled one. So I think it's just really what fits in with the visual design. And then also thinking about waterproofing things. So really always making sure that in kitchens or anything, you have at least a 4-inch backsplash. We will always do backsplash all the way to the ceiling in those areas. Again, tile is where it's always more expensive, but you don't want to deal with puckering water and drywall down the road because, again, nobody's going to take care of your things like you take care of your things. You are still renting out a property. Whether or not it's the sweetest nurse lady ever, it's still not their property, and they will splash and do things. So I think it's just really important to do the right types of remodels, and again, having the right systems in place to make sure you don't have to do any fixes down the road is the whole.
Well, I just have one last question. Katie, you have any questions before I jump in with my last one? Okay, so my last question is, we mentioned in the intro that you and Tyler may appear occasionally on BRRRR. So give us your backstory there, because I think you actually worked for BRRRR for a little bit, and Tyler still is an active part of the rookie boot camp. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually worked for BRRRR for almost a year, and then I left to go full time with my husband in our business, which was the best move. And it is one of the most incredible companies for anybody who is looking into getting real estate investing. My husband co-hosts the Rookie Boot Camp, which is once a week. And it's a 12-week series on how to get your first deal with Ashley Kerr. So Ashley Kerr is actually the co-host of the Rookie podcast with Tony Robinson. And my husband and Ashley lead the boot camp.
They're such a great team.
Oh, they're such a great team. Yeah, great people, great team. Yeah, so he and I help out from time to time. He's also working on a couple other YouTube series. So he is more the face of BRRRR and rookie items, but we like to dabble and help out from here to there. So we're usually at events, any meetups here in Denver, we're usually at those as well. We're big in the real estate investing community here in Denver, and a lot of it is backed by BRRRR, which is great.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time today. There are lots of new things that we talked about today. Yes. So anything that you want to add down the road, let's say that you guys have a really great midterm rental YouTube video that you put out, let us know, and I can add it to your show notes, in the future, since we try to make our episodes timeless. But if you want to get in contact with Zosia, look at the show notes on YouTube, and you can look on audio as well, and click on those links and ask her any questions you'd like. Give her a call or add a comment on YouTube. We always appreciate your comments. If you ask us to talk about something, we try to incorporate it in multiple future episodes. And I even try to circle back to you on YouTube and say, hey, it's coming out in this episode. Be ready. So thanks for listening, guys. Have a great week, everyone.